welcome to the Jazz Violin Podcast, episode 5. This episode is actually sponsored by Schertler. If you don't know Schertler are a Swiss company specializing in the amplification of stringed instruments. They make pickups, amplifiers, and preamps. For the last, I'd say about the last 7 years, I've been using the Stat V pickup, which is their system for the violin, or one of their systems for the violin. In my opinion, it's the best pickup for the violin on the market. I think amplifying the violin is already a pretty difficult thing to do. It's such an amazing acoustic instrument, but in my opinion, the Stat V does it best. I've tried so many different pickups during my time playing, and really this is, the Stat V has always been the one that has done it for me. If you think back, also a couple of months ago, we had Scott Tixier on the podcast, and I know for a fact that he uses a Schertler Stat V. That also brings us to our next guest, who is Ola Kvernberg. Ola also uses the Stat V. Ola is a Norwegian violinist. Some of you who are Gypsy jazz fans might recognize his playing from the Angelo Debarre album. Angelo is Back in Town, and there's also a Jimmy Rosenberg album that he did with the Hot Club de Norweigan. But that was quite a while ago. Ola now writes a lot of his own music. We spoke quite a lot about that on the podcast. I really like his stuff. But yeah, we didn't have that long to do the interview. Sadly, it was quite hectic because I think it's he was over playing with the Tronheim Orchestra at Ronnie Scotts, and things didn't go to plan for us. So we ended up going for the interview in a park just down the road from Ronnie Scotts, which means that the sound isn't amazing, but we actually had a great chat anyway. So here it is. Check it out. Ola Kvernberg.
Try and be.
Oh no, yeah, that's great. Okay, yeah. I think we should just start again.
Yeah.
We should start again.
Yeah.
So just how you started playing.
From the top again. Yeah. So basically, I was born into a musical family, I guess. With we're 4 siblings, and at some point all of us played, but at least 3 of us turned out professional musicians.
Okay.
My sister's being a classical pianist, and my other sister is a folk fiddler.
Great.
And my brother, he's like the family's outcast. He turned out to be a doctor.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I basically started playing. I was given a violin at age 3, and then became part of like the house musicality, like the house, the Kvernberg Orchestra, we called it. We played like old, like romantic classical pieces.
Oh, really?
Like chamber style, and folk music. Folk music and this style of folk music called gammaldans, which is more like the more like dancey kind of folk music, I guess.
Norwegian folk music.
Yeah. Okay. So more reminiscent of old time style. That kind of style.
Old time, is it? When you say old time, is it like American old time?
Like the American old time. Yeah.
Right.
It's similar to that. It's gammaldans. Yeah, like with a lot of like polkas and like this kind of stomping rhythm kind of music. Yeah. So. And I did that with my mom as a teacher up until I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
And then I'm from this little town outside of a little town on the west coast of Norway called Fræna, which is really small. 9,000 inhabitants, spread on a big area.
Okay.
And my classical violin teacher from age 9 to 18. She came to Fræna, to my hometown when I was 9, and basically that's that was the beginning of like my classical training, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, and I guess next thing to wonder is how you started playing jazz or improvised music.
Yeah. Well, I guess I was around. I think I was 14 when I discovered. Because my dad has a huge like vinyl collection.
Okay.
And like Deutsche Grammophon and classical recordings for the most part, at least at the time.
Yeah.
But he had this one album, this double album with Sven Asmussen and Stefan Grappelli.
Oh right, yeah.
With Nils Henning and Peterson and two of a kind. You know that, right?
Yeah.
So and I was like instantly hooked on that album.
Yeah.
And basically, I remember like transcribing or learning everything, like both Sven and Grappelli's solos on that album, because I just kept playing it over and over and played together with it. And then like 1 year later, some guy told me that what the concept of improv was.
Oh, right.
So I basically fuck, I thought I had it now. I learned the tunes and that was really cool. And then they said no, they make that stuff up on the fly. Which was kind of a huge blow, but that quickly turned into like a lifestyle, I guess.
Sure.
Like a really like realizing that this kind of music has no limits.
Yeah.
So from there on out, I guess from age 16 to 18 was when I sort of went more and more intense with the jazz playing, and I started getting gigs in my neighboring town of Molde, which also is the host for this Molde Jazz Festival, which is like the biggest festival in Norway, jazz festival in Norway. So I got sort of I got some guys to play with there, horn players mostly. So. Okay. I was challenged to play like in flat keys, which was, I guess, nice training for a violinist, right?
Yeah, it is good training.
So from there on out, when I was 18, I went sort of full on, following. I went to this concert with the Hot Club de Norvège at the Django Festival in Oslo.
Cool.
You been to the Django Festival?
I've not.
No. I think they've been doing it for 30 years, over 30 years now.
It looks like it's a great one.
It's always like a super fresh lineup, and I haven't been there for a few years now. But when I was more into the Hot Club style, I used to play it a lot. So, but that was basically when I was like 17 at that festival. Playing with John Larsen and those guys. That was sort of my breakthrough, I guess. Okay. From there on out, I started releasing albums and recording with Jimmy Rosenberg and.
How was that then? Recording with Jimmy.
Oh, amazing! Yeah. I mean, I was 17 and I was sort of like just tossed into this world of hot jazz that was really new and fresh and unknown to me. So, this whole it was like a shivering experience in a way, but really cool. Yeah. But also, like playing in the studio for the first time and then realizing, you'll get the dark cloud eventually in the studio where creativity stops, So I was really unexperienced at the time. Okay. But I think that even though I think my playing on the album is really to be generous to myself, I'd say. Young at least. But it was a nice, super inspiring to meet a musician such as Jimmy. So,
When did you do the Angelo album?
I was just 2 years later, I think.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So I did I basically did a string of albums on Hot Club Records.
Yeah.
Following the Jimmy album, I did a like a solo compilation album with like 3 different settings,
Yeah.
three different lineups, and I did the Angelo Debarre album, and eventually I did this trio album, which is sort of my I count it as my first like own like album as a leader. Sorry.
Is that the one with Doug Rainey?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Is that someone smoking weed or something?
I don't know. So we're in the park.
Strangely familiar smell. We're in a park, I guess the answer.
Yeah.
Out there.
Yeah.
I have a bit of allergies, so maybe.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, no.
No, but it's fine though.
This hasn't been easy sorting this out.
But we're there now.
We're there.
We're
now.
hanging in
I
there.
just hope that you're not going to start. So
bloating.
Yeah. No.
No, it shouldn't be that bad
cool.
though.
All right. So we were talking about we were talking about the Doug Rainey album, and that's the one that I think I first heard you on actually.
Okay. Yeah.
First heard you.
Yeah.
I really like that one.
Oh,
I
thanks.
think it's really great. His playing is really cool. But already on that, you were playing quite. I wouldn't say that you sounded like a sort of regular hot club violinist. You sounded quite like beboppy. There's a lot of like bebopping you're playing.
Yeah. The thing was, I had this thing, and I've always had this thing for pianists.
Okay.
Piano players, and I guess at the time I was listening a lot to Oscar Peterson.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm still, that's sort of like a childhood crush for me. He's playing his style of like swing and his blend of blues and bebop.
Yeah.
So and also at the time I was playing this record, I'd heard I discovered DJ Rockwood as well.
Yeah.
Which also influenced me a lot, I
think you could probably hear that actually. I guess from what
I guess, yeah.
A little bit, not like you weren't copying him, but there was definitely something I could hear.
Some of the, I guess, I think, I guess that's why I sort of like count that album as sort of like the first like official album, because I think it's there's like a, I guess there's like a straight line going from there to till now. Like stylistically, anyways.
Yeah.
And I'd started the jazz studies at the conservatory in Tronheim, so I was I guess 1 year into my more like deep studies of jazz music, not just gigging around, but actually practicing a lot.
That's good that you were gigging around before you went and studied though.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's always the case with people. Definitely wasn't for me.
No.
I don't know if it is for. I mean, I gigged. I did, but not playing jazz.
No.
I wouldn't have been able. I don't think you would have wanted to hear me play jazz before I studied. Yeah. And nowadays, I guess since then, I guess you've been doing stuff that's a lot more. I guess like sort of more progressive. I guess, is that right?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah. I guess I've at least like since 2010. I released this album in 2011 called Lyrebird, which was sort of, I guess, like it was like the beginning of an era for me where I stopped focusing on me as a soloist and started focusing on like more on compositions more, I guess. So
how old were you around then?
I turned 30 that year.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm turning 37 this year. So so I guess that's sort of like the trip I'm on now, and increasingly less like violin oriented and increasingly more like just like creating music oriented. Yeah. That being said, you know, I'm still a great big violin nerd, you know.
Yeah. You have to be.
Yeah.
So I think I was just listening to your most album. What's it called again? It's left me.
Yeah, my newest, Steam Dome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, what you just said about it being less violin orientated, and not about the solos. It seemed more just about the melodies.
Yeah.
What are your influences for that?
Well, for that album, I had I basically made the band and concept before I didn't bring the violin into the loop until like in the very end of the process. Right. So I just focusing on grooves and like writing out drum grooves and bass grooves, you know, like checking out. I wanted to just like make like dance music, just acoustic or you know, like electric, not electronic, you know.
Okay.
So that was like the pitch for that album.
Yeah.
And also I wanted to bring like try and add some more, you know, whereas like EDM and that kind of like progressive. That being said, the more progressive part of EDM,
sure.
Not like the super boring,
right?
Like chill out EDM stuff.
Okay.
But
stuff, isn't it?
I mean, it's hard to generalize, anyways. But you know, if you could, I guess you could say there's, in many cases, there's not a very like clear melody. It's just a lot of like layers, just going forward. So I really wanted to add, you know, some of the like my I'm a really like romancer when it comes to melodies.
Yeah.
So I wanted to add the melody. So that's where the violin comes in, I guess. You know.
Sure.
And in my head, more like you know, like because I always consider my albums like movies these days, and like the violin is check him out. The violin is more like the narrator, you know.
Right.
Yeah, that's so I, you know, a lot of stuff happening, and then you know you make space for it, and then the violin can go in, and you just like explain something, and then we move on to the next part.
Okay,
so not much violin solos on that album.
Sure. I think I did notice one. I was just listening to it just before I met you.
Okay.
I noticed one. It felt like a solo.
Yeah. It's sort of a. Yeah, I guess there's sort of one solo. Yeah,
but not loads. Yeah. Okay. So interesting to talk to you about when you were learning jazz. Actually, we go back to that.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you found difficult about playing jazz on the violin? You mentioned a little bit about playing in funny keys, or keys with like flat keys with other instrumentalists.
Yeah.
Did you find that? You said you found that difficult.
Well, to be honest, you know, I found everything really difficult. You know, increasingly difficult as I, you know, when I started jazz studies in Tronheim, I was, you know, just
that was 3 horns at once. That was like all from different places.
Yeah.
One behind us.
It's like we're lucky today. Okay, yeah. Well, in Tronheim I was. I remember being like really envious of both like saxophone players and piano players, and I had this whole phase where I would, you know, and I think you can hear that in my playing as well, because maybe not on the Cats and Dog album, but around about that time or somewhere maybe a bit later, I was really into like trying to reduce the violin to just like a tonal generator, you know.
Okay.
I just because I really found it to be super like limiting at the time.
To reduce it to just as in to just make it so you're just making.
Well, so I'm not like enhancing any of the like the oral like the acoustic qualities of the violin, you know, like with the open strings and the idiomatic approaches that would like get the, you know, like with double stops, that kind of thing, stuff that gets like that will make the violin sing, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
like just tone producing stuff, idiomatically versus chromatically, I guess. And which so I had this phase where I was, I really didn't listen to I listened to Didier Lockwood for the maybe the first year, or first year or two, I guess. And then no violinists, basically. Just Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, a little bit of Miles, but I was really into more the bebop-y kind of players. A lot of piano players, Bud Powell, Oscar Peterson. Just a lot of different stuff. Kenny Garrett. I was really into that. So I guess I found the first years I found the instrument to be really limiting. Once I guess that it was part of the rioting against the traditional hot swing style. Also, I think because the style of Grappelli, it's so intertwined with the instrument.
It's
and
very violinistic.
Very
So there's lots of open strings, isn't it?
Lots of open strings, and overtones, flageoletas, naturals, and so, which is it's nice, but I found that I wasn't compatible with the other players, playing that.
It doesn't work, because
it worked in a hot swing setting, but
I guess if you want to do that, you want to stick in. You've got to stick in certain keys. And I guess that's not always gonna. That's not always gonna happen if you're playing with basically anybody who doesn't play hot club.
Right. Also, it's a beat thing. Because the phrasing is so tightly locked in with the idiomatic string shifts and using open strings to make stuff sing. And I mean I guess that's the irony though, because later as I started chilling out a bit more, I guess, when I was more closer to 30, I started returning to this is actually a violin, as I can actually do stuff that other instruments can't, and maybe I should focus a little more on that, on the sheer sound of the instrument, and not so much on shredding chromatic lines, But so I guess I found it limiting in the beginning, but it was a nice way to rediscover the violin, I think.
Sure. What time are we on actually?
Quite sure. It's 1:05.
Okay. What time do you think we should wrap this up for you to get back to your?
Is it 45? Maybe another 10 minutes or something?
Okay,
if that's cool with you?
Let's try and do that. Okay then. So, amplification is interesting to talk to different violinists about. In fact, you know what? Maybe about 4 years ago, this is just off topic a little bit. About 4 years ago, I think I sent you a message on Facebook because I had noticed that you used the Schertler pickup.
That's right.
And I also noticed that, I noticed that you had a little stick underneath it. A little matchstick underneath it in one of your videos, and I thought, is he doing what? Is he doing the same thing as me? And I remember because you taking it in and out. And then it gets worn out. Is that why you're doing it? Is that a good idea?
That's it. Yeah.
And I think you did get back to me. You said, it's to get it in and out. Is
that because you have this what's it called, this this
little capsule.
What's the stuff you put in bottles.
The cork.
So this piece of cork, it gets compressed too much, so it doesn't sit after a few removals. It doesn't sit in. So I I found saxophone reeds. I just tear off pieces of saxophone reeds because it's the woodwork is so finely. It's so fine woodwork, so it's really dense, you know. So I can, and it's a perfect thing to get it to stick.
Yeah. So, because I think that I had that issue with it, because I really liked the sound of the pickup, but I didn't like that when I played acoustically, it sort of killed my tone.
Yeah, it's like a mute.
So I just take it in and out every time. And I think that's the same thing happened to me. It wears down, and then you're like, well, what am I going to do now?
Exactly.
And then that's it. I got that from you.
Yeah. Right.
Cool. Okay. Cool. But sorry, but actually, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts about amplification.
Yeah.
Because it's, to me, I think it's a really difficult thing for the violin. I find that, the violin's such an amazing acoustic instrument. You spend so much time, or you can spend so much time working on that sound. And then you plug in. And then but
you remove 90%
it removes the sound. But then you need to do that if you want to play with a drummer or anything like that. So I don't know if you ever battle with that.
Yeah, I've believe me, I've had some thoughts about that through the years. I guess it's a great big hassle for violinists. If you want to play with drummers, you basically have to find a way, to break through. And I guess in my experience, I started out trying out different, like Fishman. I tried different pickup systems before I wound up with the Schertler Igor Zubkov, this homemade. It was pretty good actually, but it was it fell apart really fast, I remember. So what different pickups, and I was sort of, the first years I was really focusing on just the pickup and just to make the best sound out of the pickup. But I really never was really happy until I found the Schertler Stat V. Also, and I guess in general, my quest for the sound started off really almost like a emergency solution, just to tear through the wall of sound in the beginning. And like a really like a compromise, I guess. I was aware of the fact that the tone wasn't what I wanted it to be, but that it was utopia to get a better sound at the time. But then through the years, I've found ways, and I've sort of embraced this thing. So it went from a pragmatic thing to a preferred choice. So now my sound is more basically it's always a mixture of the lower end of the Schertler, and then some high end from a DPA, or if I'm in a studio setting, I will use different mics, maybe U47 maybe, or maybe a stereo condenser couple actually. Just to get a lot of headroom, acoustic headroom. So I guess that's the general problem with violin and amplification, is that the treble, to get the treble through. At least with pickups, that's a real drag to have it sound nice up in the brighter frequencies.
Okay, so what, as in getting it through is the first thing, and then making it sound nice is the second.
I guess that's sort of like a game plan. But all gigs now, I always blend. So I never use only one. I always use the Schertler, and also I have. It's not just right out of the box. I have this EQ in addition, where I can do more adjustments to the sound, especially to the low end, to try and even it out a bit, because when you're because I'm always killing a lot of top from the DI or from the pickup. and then I'm leaving that more to the DPA to provide the high end.
So you kill the top from the pickup?
Yeah, almost entirely. Yeah.
Oh, so, right. What sort of band EQ do you have on it?
Well, live I have this 4-band EQ actually.
Okay, so you take the
yeah, I can just high pass. Okay. So I'll just go almost way down from 2K and up. Right. Just take it away.
Okay.
And and then when I have this acoustic mics in addition or like mixed in, I get that's turned into my preferred sound, where I will actually and that's why it's often a bit tricky to lock in with new sound engineers, because it's not what you would expect from a violin, because I like my sound deeper and more bass heavy than I guess than an acoustic violin would be.
Okay.
So I always have to, if I'm working with new sound engineers, I have to go a few extra rounds to convince them.
You just have to do that now.
Yeah. Well, now we have our own guy.
You got your own.
Yeah. So he knows.
Okay. Yeah. I find it interesting because I just know that it I guess for you must play a lot of your music with a pickup amplified. So you must have had to sort of change your playing to fit that, right? How you attack the instrument.
Definitely, yeah. And I'll say that one of the benefits of the pickup playing thing was that I was able to play a lot lighter.
Yeah, exactly.
And that really changed my playing. Now what used to be like a compromise, now it's sort of like everything's just intertwined into
becomes your thing.
Yeah. But the thing with the amplification and the being able to you can hear the wind.
Nice.
The idea of being able to play like really, I'm almost applying like at least when I'm playing, more like faster kind of phrases maybe, I can apply almost no pressure, so I can just.
So it's like a something on your head though.
Yeah, is it?
I don't think it's alive. No. So we're getting attacked by.
It's like a war zone making podcasts these days.
Yeah.
You should wear like these helmets.
Yeah.
I was saying, So I guess depending on what I'm playing, but if I'm playing like a more like faster rhythmic stuff, I'm actually, in terms of pressure on the bow, it's like the whole register is just like between 0 and 30% or something, and just tip of the bow for those parts of it, because I feel like that's how I can sort of master or to get the flow, the rhythmic flow that I want.
It's quite a Didier thing, and that is. He did that really well. Him and Jean-Luc Ponty, they did that, Jean-Luc Ponty still does.
Yeah, Ponty applies a bit more pressure though, I think.
Middle of the bow a bit more.
Maybe
Didier's thing is that it's the tip.
Super low.
What time are we on? You got a.
Yeah, Adam also. Baltic, he also applies. I think but he has the whole range though. I guess that's the thing. Depending on what music we play, but when it's nice to be able to like have this whole dynamic thing going again. That you don't have to like limit yourself because of the style of music you're playing. So playing the violin and all, which is after all a super dynamic instrument. It's nice to be able to do that.
I agree. It's a shame we haven't really spoken much, and we probably don't have much time.
Do 5 more minutes
to speak about your stuff coming up with Joshua Redman.
Yeah, sure.
Interesting to hear about that.
Yeah, we've been working for. We had this tour in Norway now just before Christmas, which was really nice. We premiered our duo in Norway in 2016, and that was following. We've been playing with each other in different settings for quite a few times through like that for more than 10 years, I guess.
Right.
So, but the duo is sort of like a new thing. And we're doing Wigmore Hall here in London in this fall.
Okay.
I think on September 11, maybe. I think.
Oh, really? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. It's my wife's birthday. So
yeah. Right.
I was literally just about to say to you, man, I'm going to be there.
Yeah, I think I'm not quite sure, but check it out.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's really nice though. That's really It's but with him I'm doing. I'm also doing. I'm playing a lot of the bass violin as well. I don't know if you the Sensi core strings. You know this thing.
Yeah.
It sits really nicely with the Schertler thing. At least like pizzicato stuff is really nice. So it's just violin-sized strings, just really fat and 1 octave lower sounding.
Right.
So you can just put them onto whatever, like regular violin you want. I mean, the action is really, it gets, it's a really low suspension on the strings.
Sure.
So playing with a bow, you can't apply much pressure without the tone like pitch bending upwards.
Right. Upwards?
Really? Yeah. So it's
usually it's downwards if you apply more bow, right?
You think so? Yeah. Well, no. The pressure gets adds suspension to the string,
right.
Which it's good.
Maybe I'm just thinking of you can get like subharmonics. I think that's what they're called.
Yeah.
Push down really hard, you get like a tone below.
Yeah.
Probably a different thing, I guess.
But speaking of harmonics, that's the thing with you can really hear those low harmonics. You can really hear those through pickups, through the. I guess you experienced that.
Yeah.
Especially playing double stops, you will hear this whole forest of deep harmonics underneath
the overtone, like the. I know what you mean.
Yeah, but so the bass violin, it's I've really been digging into that for the past 10 years also, I guess. Pizzicato stuff is cool, and at least with the pickup it sounds really deep and like a full-bred like comping instrument basically. Right, yeah. So which means I also could dig a little into more like comping styles and stuff. Yeah. So I'm basically that and viola. So we were talking about violin, but that's another crush of mine for the past 10 years. I guess I've switched almost with my trio. I played almost entirely viola for the last tours we did, and I've experienced that's many violinists or jazz violinists that's sort of switch to the viola and
right.
To get some time off from the high frequencies.
And I guess you can do that and still play.
Yeah. I have this, it's moderately sized viola, so it's not that big of a change from the violin. It's not hard to intonate. And
it can be a big difference, kind of.
Yeah. So I'm bringing all 3 of those to the table with Josh. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Are you doing your own compositions?
We are, both mine and his, right. And a few common tunes that we like and love, and the whole thing is really loose, really. we have like a bunch of tunes, maybe like an opener set and ending tune, an encore set or something, and then it's just a bunch of stuff happening in between where we really freely go from one thing to another, which is really fun. And I mean, he's a complete musical monster, so he's got no limits. So and we have this beat thing in common, so we can sort of like relax. It's like we lock into the same grid. Just really fun.
Right. Great.
And it's a great learning experience to try and do that without any like comping, like any bass or drums. So just try and trust your ears. You know?
We should probably wrap it up.
I think so.
Make your gig.
Yeah. They're starting to call now.
Man. All right, thank you very much.
8 minutes.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks Matt.
Man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Jazz Violin Podcast. This was episode 5, and we were chatting with Ola Kvernberg. Well, when I say we, I mean me. I'm Matt Holborn, if you don't know me already. Please subscribe. That would be great. Subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Just, subscribe, share, like, on all the places that you're supposed to do that stuff. If you have any friends who like jazz, violin, or just violin, if you've got like a violinist friend, you should send them this as well, even if they don't play jazz violin, because I think this is interesting to everybody. What else was I going to say? Send me an email as well if you've got, if you've been enjoying the show and you have any suggestions or of like who to have on. Send me an email. My email address is mattholborn88@gmail.com, all lowercase, blah blah blah. I think our next guest is going to be, I keep saying my next guest. Nobody else does this, just me. I think it's going to be Daniel John Martin. I think I'm meeting him tomorrow. When he's on his way to Liverpool through London. I think that's everything. Bye.